We had to take a little break. My brain was reeling. Here was a pony who tried to trick me out of EC1101, and who actually knew Goldenblood, who'd worked under him, who possibly had answers to all my questions. Glory and I had gone up to the roof. I stayed in the doorway while she took in some air. Rampage and Scotch Tape were finally left with the Zodiacs. The machinery clearly scared the filly to death. She wasn't over the tunnels yet. Lacuna had walked off, still talking to herself in the plural, and apparently very put out with Goldenblood. I wondered if she knew I could hear her faint telepathic babble. P-21 slipped off to be on his own. "How are you feeling?" I asked softly. She glanced over her shoulder at her missing wing for a moment, then immediately lowered her gaze to her hooves. "Grounded. But better?" She looked at me, and her smile returned. Goddesses. She was so beautiful. "You actually tracked down my sister to help me," she said, cocking her brow at me. "It was all I could think of," I said lamely, tapping my rubbery hooves together. She gave me a wary smile. "You realize that Dusk and I hate each other, right? I think she spent more time shouting at me and comparing me to Mother than comforting me." I winced, but she smiled. It was the kick in the rump I needed. "Thank you." I knew I couldn't help you." She looked at me more sympathetically as I went on. "I cost you your wing. I cost you everything. All I've done is hurt you, Glory." I said with a sniff, feeling myself start to shake. And then she was hugging me, holding me. I took a deep breath to try and steady myself, feeling her feathers so soft on my cheek. "You saved my life, Blackjack. Again and again. I don't blame you for my wing." She drew back enough to look me in the eyes and smiled. "Not telling me about Goldenblood and the projects, though." "I'm sorry," I repeated for the 20th time. "I really didn't mean to keep it from any of you. It wasn't a big secret. It wasn't a big deal at first, just sort of cool secret stuff. Stuff that happened 2 centuries ago. But then I found out about Chimera and the other projects, saw Goldenblood's memories. It all sort of built up around me." "Well," she said, relaxing a little bit, "I think Lacuna is even more upset. I think you managed to offend the goddess big time by not mentioning that Sanguine has Chimera." Then Gloria looked me in the eyes, stroking my cheek under my eye patch. "And how are you doing?" "Me?" I felt a cold shiver run along my spine and lied with every bit of effort I could. "Fine. Never better. Just great. They fixed me up so well." I felt my grin become so tense that I felt like I'd snap. She looked at me like she was about to cry. Finally, I slumped. "You know, huh? I was there for part of the procedure, when they had you open," she said softly. "Oh," I sighed, hanging my head a little. "And do I really look that bad inside?" "You really do," Gloria said softly as she stroked my cheek. "Your organs are in bad shape. Blackjack, Triage told you, right?" Clearly she shouldn't have, from the look on Glory's face. I grinned. "Oh, about the whole 6 months thing?" "Never tell me the odds," I said as I grinned back at her. "I'm sure I can pull off, like, a year." I was grinning, right? "No big deal." Smile, damn it. Damn it! My head slowly bowed as I started to shake again. She put her hooves around me as I pressed my face into her chest as the sob broke out all at once, from an inexplicable truth crashing down on me. I was going to die. I was going to die. Without Glory's suffering and the Zodiacs and the Professor to distract me, there was nothing I could do to avoid facing it. The taint inside me was going to twist my body up more and more until finally something critical failed. Better if I blew my brains out now while I still had some whole and healthiness to me. Better if red-eyed slavers had killed me. I could almost feel my insides churning up, my sick and diseased heart slowly beating. My braces clacked as I hugged her close and sobbed against her again and again. I hated it. I hated these tears. But I couldn't stop. It's not fair, I gasped. I shook with each new spasm of tears. I wanted to save Mom. I wanted to save Midnight and every pony in 99. I wanted to save you. Have a kid someday. Have a life. I found something to live for, damn it, I said, my voice hoarse and choking, as snot and tears seemed to flow equally. And now I'm just going to die? Why the fuck is this happening to me? What the fuck does it take for me to get a fucking break? To have something fucking good happen? Anything. I yelled into her chest. I'm sick of it. I used to think that there was a bottom to tears. That eventually you couldn't cry anymore, and that you'd feel better. But now I knew better. Whatever strength I'd shown facing the Zodiacs was a lie. My confidence was a front. I was going to die. And I was going to be a bad death. And like that, I was falling into a pit from which there was no escape. Then I felt Glory's tears falling on my back and my head. I'm sorry, she whispered softly in my ear. I'm sorry, I can't help you. I wish there was someone in the wasteland I could find to help you. I closed my eye. What was I doing? How could I be crying and pitying myself like this now? It wasn't fair. No, it wasn't fucking fair. It wasn't fair that Glory had lost her wing. It wasn't fair that P-21 had been raped. It wasn't fair that Scotch Tape was an orphan, that Lacuna was the dumpster of a goddess's insecurities, or that Rampage had denied her own identity. None of it was fucking fair. And I am trying to turn us into the deadliest band of angsty, whiny ponies in the wasteland? Maybe. Despite everything, I finally put a lid over that pit inside me. Right now, Glory needed me to be strong. I sucked at being strong, but for her, somehow I pulled myself together and wiped the tear from my eye to look at her. You do, Glory. Every second I'm with you, you make things better. Make them easier. I couldn't do this without you, I said as I looked into her eyes. Our brows touched. Our lips did the same. Sweet Celeste, how I missed this. I was going to die. But at least I wouldn't be dying alone. So, am I forgiven? I asked as we trot back down towards the planetarium. She smiled. Dusk may be an infuriating mare who tried to kill me, but she said that any pony who'd do what you did after that stable shouldn't be touched with a 10-foot cloud. Unless she did what you did when you found out how hurt I was. She gave my rump a nudge with hers. Then you should probably get another chance. She had a weird little smile, and why was she blushing? I always liked Dusk, you know, I said as I trot along, my braces clattering. She said that you were a terrorist and an idiot and would probably get me killed, Glory added. I cocked my head, thinking about that for a moment. Nope, still like her. I glanced at her and, of course, risked injecting a cloud into the discussion. Did you have any news from Thunderhead? Glory sighed and nodded. Yes, most of it mixed. Dad refused to resign, challenged my confession. I'm MIA at the moment, since my remains couldn't be magically analyzed, so technically there's a warrant out on me. Lambent and Lucent were both pretty upset by it all. She looked at me with an asking concern. Do you know anything about a surface pony named Red-Eye? I know he took over Paradise. Apparently the stable dwellers fighting him. I had images of magical unicorn power armor sliding around fighting death beams from the horizon. Pzow, pzow. Well, he's got the rest of the Enclave stirred up, and apparently they're very upset with Thunderhead. They're blaming the Volunteer Corps for drawing attention. And I suppose they have a point, Glory said with a sigh. Even though the DJ barely mentions us at all, most ponies wouldn't even think of us if it wasn't for the Volunteer Corps. The Volunteer Corps is also pretty much the only good thing I've heard about Pegasi since the war, I said softly as I bumped her rump back. She gave a pleasant little smile. Well, the rest of the Enclave is using it as an excuse to demand all sorts of things from us. They want new energy weapons, new talismans, and a large food reserve built up in Nevero. And they want the VC ended. Never mind that our food trade is now how we're getting materials for weapons, gemstones for talismans, and new food. I didn't like the thought of the Enclave getting more weapons, but I was more surprised by that last bit of news. The Pegasi are importing food from the surface. I blinked in shock. Glory smirked at me. Believe it or not, it's one of the major selling points of the VC. The fact that only a few surface crops were adapted to cloud seeding. It gives us basic staples, but lacks something in the variety. Have you ever tasted a strawberry? I shook my head, and she gave a shiver. Well, neither had any pony in Thunderhead. Father won a major vote to get the VC more assistance from the security forces after passing out a dozen cartons. And there was nearly a riot when blueberry samples were provided. A riot. For berries? I muttered, stunned. Oh yes, cloud grain might be nutritious, but it's hardly tasty, she said with a laugh. Folk were so amazed by the flavors that now anything with the word berry in the name is classified as a controlled substance. So despite all these stories of death and disease, VC recruitment numbers haven't dropped off as much as many have anticipated. They do know that the Society is probably the only place in Equestria where we can find berries, period, right? I think that they gloss over the point in that interview. But the public consensus seems to be changing to the surface being worth something rather than just being death, misery, and violence. It's leading to some major gusts of foul air with the rest of the Enclave, though. The VC period is bad enough, but anything good about the surface? I guess the science and political broadcasts are having a sunny day bashing Thunderhead right and left, criticizing our independence and our willingness to break tradition. She actually sounded proud of that, despite the fact that I still wanted to buck light hooves to the stars. Glory made Thunderhead sound like the blackjack of the Enclave. They were doomed. Once we'd all gotten back inside the planetarium, Professor Zodiac shimmered into being before us as the robots cleared away some of the junk and brought over cushions from the seats. Sorry, normally I don't have visitors. They come, are awed, and run off. Sorry for being so jaded, I replied as I settled down. Braces might let me walk, but they were a long way from comfortable. The silvery projection laughed brightly. Oh, don't be. Besides, from my Zodiacs, I've never had much company as I'd like. P21 looked at the door. What is your deal with them? Is it like a Reaper thing? No. Honestly, it's more like the Zodiacs have a deal with me than the other way around. The professor replied softly. Many ponies have come through here for help. We do what we can and take what payment we can make and send them on their way. A few, however, stay. The Zodiacs are 12 ponies who see themselves as, I don't know, knights, I suppose. While their activities abroad are as bounty hunters, bringing in caps we need, here they protect the collegiate. This is their castle, and I'm their princess. I don't command them, though. Zodiac Knights. So then, why'd they come after me? I asked with a little frown. She gestured at my hoof. Because I need your pitbuck. Virgo thought you were just another exceptionally large bounty. Oh, and thank you very much for not trying to kill her. She added quickly. The others were hoping to get it from you one way or another. They actually turned it into a bit of a contest till I told them to cut it out. I sighed as I settled into my cushion. So, what's your story? P21 asked.